So this video is for that person who is naturally more shy and anxious when it comes to social situations. Maybe you're more on the introverted side. Maybe you don't go out very much as it stands or have much of a social life right now. But you kind of want to change that. You don't just want to be stuck in this mold for your entire life. You want to get out there, make a bunch of friends, meet girls. Because this was me for most of my life. Like, growing up, I was incredibly introverted, very socially awkward. And I think when you're more introverted or you have a reputation for being the guy who doesn't say much, other people kind of have this assumption about you. And that's that you're okay with it being like that, that you don't want to be included in these social events or you don't like fun. When that wasn't the case at all with me, I desperately wanted that more exciting social life. But the thing holding me back was just this extreme social anxiety. I really didn't feel comfortable being around people I didn't know, felt very self conscious, very judged. I'd just be very much in my own head when speaking to new people. Like, I didn't get invited to many parties growing up, but I remember a couple that I went to with my friends, and I'd be hyping myself up before. I'd be visualizing this party that I was going to go to as some kind of turning point in my life. Like, I'm going to be the most social guy in the room. I'm going to be super confident. I'm going to get a few drinks in me, and then I'm going to be able to speak to everyone there with confidence. And, I'm going to be chatting up all the girls. But then when we go there, of course, it'd be a different story. I wouldn't live up to that version of myself that I'd made in my head, this confident version of myself. And bro, I'd be standing on the opposite side of the room from all the girls, like just afraid to even go over and say hi. And, I wouldn't have any of my own conversations with people. When I'd speak to people, it would be like when I was clinging on to one of my friends' conversations. Like, I didn't feel comfortable being my own individual, if that makes sense. And the horrible thing about that was I'd see people that we'd met at these parties, like, from another school, and we'd see them on lunch break or something. And they'd come over to my friends and, dap them up and look all happy to see them. But then when it got to me, they wouldn't remember who I was. Like, they'd act as if I was some new person. And in my head, I'm thinking, like, I spoke to you at this party and you can't remember me. You can remember all my friends, but you've forgotten me. What does that say about me? And I think the worst part of this was, I knew what I was capable of deep down, because a lot of people have this where, they could be super shy and socially awkward around people they don't know. But when they're with their friends, they turn into the life of the party. Like, I was really comfortable expressing myself and making all these crazy jokes and being loud around my friends. But when it came to the people I actually wanted to talk to or make a good impression on, I really retreated into my own head and just froze up and acted like a complete weirdo. So I think you can imagine how demotivating this was for me. Like I said, I put in a lot of effort just to even go to these parties. Like, that was a very scary and daunting thing for me to do, to be surrounded by not just people I don't know, but girls. And in like that high pressure social environment, that was extremely draining for me. So I'm going to these things and people don't even remember who I am. They're remembering all of my friends, but they don't know who I am after I've been at this party for hours. I'm not getting a return on my investment here. What's the point in even trying? What am I trying for? And, that kind of prompted me to not make an effort anymore. I remember this time when I was in school where I actually stopped going to things like this, and I was turning down invites from my friends for like to come out on the weekends just because I thought, what's the point? I'm pleased to say that I didn't end up following through on that and totally backing off from any social events or, trying to chase that exciting social life, because I did get there in the end. And the most important realization I had along the way was that it was completely normal for me to feel like that, because I just was totally out of my element in those high pressure social situations, parties and social outings with lots of people that I didn't know. It was totally normal for me to not feel comfortable in that environment. I was extremely introverted, not very outgoing for most of my life up to that point. And yes, you could say like some people are kind of born introverted, some are born extroverted and find it easier to socialize, but I had not made that much of an effort to push myself up to that point in life. And this isn't me coming at it from the angle of, self-hatred or I should have tried harder, because I don't blame myself for that, because school is not the easiest environment to be social in, because it's very judgmental and it's just not that conducive to healthy relationships. You've got friend groups bullying each other and stuff like that. So I don't blame myself for becoming that more socially anxious person. But at the same time, coming from that, I can't instantly expect myself to be the most social guy in the room at parties, or to have this amazing confidence that's suddenly manifested itself from nowhere. Like, I need to check my expectations in that situation. I need to figure out what's actually realistic for myself, because you're just going to get super demotivated and not want to continue. You're going to quit while you're ahead because it feels like too much pain for not enough reward. It's kind of like the gym. So when you start going to the gym, you're finding it super physically challenging. It's super difficult. You can't lift anything. You're going with all your friends who are way stronger than you, and it feels like it's much less effort for them. You're trying all the same exercises that they are, but by the end of the day, you're just absolutely tired and exhausted. The next day you wake up and you're sore. You really don't feel like going again. Like, the last thing you feel like is doing that another 4 times in a single week. But even though you hate going to the gym now and you don't even want to think about going back, what if you just decided to say fuck it and you return the next week, but instead of doing this monster workout with your friends, this 90-minute workout that's gonna leave every muscle and joint in your body feeling sore the next day, and you get demotivated and the same thing happens as last week? What if this time you just show up and all you commit yourself to doing is 1 set? Instead of 10 sets or 15 sets, you just focus on doing 1 set and then see how you feel after. And truth be told, you might do that 1 set and immediately dip. You might just leave and go home. And that is absolutely fine. That is absolutely a win in my book. That is something to be celebrated, because, this might sound kind of stupid, because you've committed yourself to going to the gym, you've traveled all the way there, and what, you're only going to do 1 set. Why can't you just do a full workout now you're there? What the fuck? But for the person who's struggled to be consistent with the gym their entire life, who doesn't even particularly like exercise that much right now, just showing up is absolutely something that could be considered a win. That is something that might seem small to the average gym goer, the person who's banging 4 sessions a week of gym. But for a beginner who doesn't even enjoy exercise, just showing up, that is 10 levels above sitting at home on the sofa, doing nothing. It's not about trying to match the level of your friends who've been going to the gym for 5 years when you're just starting out. That makes no sense. It's about setting your sights on something which is still somewhat challenging, that somewhat gets you out your comfort zone, but it's realistic. It's not a million levels above where you are right now. It's still quite achievable, and you're going to get that positive feedback loop from following through on it. And yeah, it's true. You're going to the gym and you're only doing 1 set. That is what's running through your minds as you walk through the doors of that gym. But then what very often happens is you'll do that 1 set and then you'll want to keep going. You'll have built up some positive momentum. You haven't got the foresight that you're going to be doing this really painful workout. Like, okay, I've done my 1st set. Now I've got 10 more to go. You haven't got that hanging over you. You're kind of just focusing on one thing at a time, not pushing yourself too hard, but still challenging yourself. And obviously, yeah, I'm only using that for example purposes. What I really want to apply this analogy to is with when it comes to socializing, because you can take that same philosophy, just show up, just be consistent in a small way, and use it to completely transform your social life. And this is part of my introvert to confidence framework, which I used to go from being that shy kid, being that super awkward kid who left school with barely any friends, to building an entirely new social circle, a brand new network of contacts, all these different friends I could go and hang out with at a moment's notice in the space of a single summer. You just need to absolutely drill this into your head. Like, treat this as your mantra. Just showing up and speaking to one person you don't know, just one conversation is infinitely better than not going out at all. So let's make this super practical, because this is not about rushing this entire process. Like, I didn't go from being that awkward, anxious guy to much more confident and social and self-assured person in a week. It was less time than you think, but it was actually probably over the course of about 2 or 3 months. So start off by meeting up with someone who you know very well, like a close friend, or just anyone who you feel like you can actually trust. Meet up with them, give yourself a reason to go out and have a fun time. Go to like a fun social place, like a bar or a pub or even a club, just somewhere where it's quite a social environment. There's going to be quite a lot of people, but the focus is on having a good time. And for 5 minutes, literally just 5 minutes of that outing, commit yourself to going and speaking to one stranger, one single stranger. And this could be anyone. Like, you could go down to the smoking area and find some drunk guy, or you could find a group that's already having a conversation and just join in with them. It does not have to be anything super deep or meaningful. You could have the most surface level conversation ever. It could even be a little bit awkward, but that's not what it's about. The purpose of this is just checking off that box. Like, I've done something kind of scary today. I've pushed myself out of my comfort zone and spoken to a complete stranger. Like, not everyone has the balls to do that. I could be sitting at home right now. So that's what I focused on for a while. That became my mantra over this summer. Just show up to the venue and speak to one person a night that I don't know. And over the course of that summer, like, coming from that starting point, from that level of comfort or lack of comfort and anxiety when it came to conversations, to where I ended up was absolutely crazy. Like, I'd say from there, I transitioned to, I'm speaking to a stranger, and if we like each other, if we're getting on really well, then I'm going to get his contact details. I'm going to ask him, bro, we should hang out sometime. We should go for a drink. Come to the pub next week. And then from there, I'm getting introduced into these wider social circles. I'm going out with, instead of like 1 or 2 people, it's 5, 6 people that I've never met before. And, I'm still feeling just as anxious or even more anxious going into situations like these. I remember a couple of times where I'm downing beers on the walk down to the pub, because that's how much I care. That's how anxious I am about making a good impression. But gradually I proved to myself that I can do it. Yeah, it's like every week I'm hitting this new level. I'm unlocking the next level in the video game. And, proving to myself what I'm really capable of. And I think all these years later, it's still important to disclose that even though I do identify as a really confident person now, and, like, I'm really socially outgoing and I'm so proud of how far I've come, I still feel very anxious in a lot of social situations. I'm still highly self-conscious, and I still want to make a good impression on people that I don't know. So that hasn't changed. But I think what I tell myself now is the anxiety that I feel before going into these situations is the confidence that I'm going to gain after. I know by now that there is a reward for me on the other side if I just push that little bit further, just push through that anxiety. So just take things at your own pace. Like, don't get demotivated in these situations when it feels like everyone around you just has this effortless confidence, whereas you're stuck as, the quiet and anxious kid. Like, your time will come. Just focus on showing up. Just do 1 rep and see how you feel. This has been so important in my personal transformation. So, just follow this advice and see where it takes you. So that is all from me today, bro. I will see you in the next one.